The only thing worse than stepping on a crack and breaking your mama's back would be drafting these 6 players that are going to end up as busts in 2025 fantasy football based upon where they are going in drafts. In my opinion, there really aren't a lot of bad players, but there are a lot of bad prices. These players are being priced way too high for me to select them at their current sleeper ADP. Before you get into things, though, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you end up enjoying, to make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, make sure you leave a like on today's video to help me out a ton. So without further ado, let's get into 6 players that you must avoid in 2025 fantasy football drafts. We begin with the first player that I believe you should be avoiding in 2025 fantasy football drafts, and that is going to be Devontae Smith, the Slim Reaper, wide receiver of the Philadelphia Eagles. Sleeper ADP, wide receiver 25 off the board at pick number 53. Now, Devontae Smith, to me, feels like the kind of pick that you are making where you are just trying to be as safe as possible, where you're trying to wrap your team up in bubble wrap while you're trying to wrap 16 different condoms over your fantasy football team. And the reason why I say that is because I believe that Devontae Smith will probably finish ahead of his ADP, right? He's coming off the board as the wide receiver 25. I believe he will finish as a top 24 wide receiver. But the problem is, I don't believe that Devontae Smith has that upside to really become a top 8, a top 12 wide receiver, to be a league-winning wide receiver for you. And that is because of 2 reasons. For one, the Philadelphia Eagles are one of, if not the most run-heavy offense that I would project in the NFL for 2025. Last season, they were one of the top 3 most run-heavy offenses in the NFL, and I would genuinely be shocked if they weren't a top 5 team in terms of run play percentage. And honestly, that is being very safe with the projection. I think it's easy to project them as either the most run-heavy offense in the National Football League or the second most run-heavy offense in the NFL. So when you're running the ball that much, you aren't able to pass the ball, right? Shocker, and that limits Devontae Smith. For 2, they also have A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, guys who are able to suck in targets as well. And for 3, when you are inside of the red zone, while Devontae Smith does have great hands, right, where he's going to make those toe tap Tony, shout out A.J. Brown, catches in the end zone, when you have A.J. Brown, who's a much bigger bodied guy, right? We call Devontae Smith the Slim Reaper for a reason, because the guy is built like a fucking stick, right? That you put a marshmallow on when you're trying to make some s'mores with a nice Hershey bar, right? So Devontae Smith, again, the talent is there. This is a good player. This is a great player, right? A lot of teams would do unholy things to get Devontae Smith as their wide receiver too, like NFL teams wise, right? But when we're talking about fantasy football, I really do not see a easy path for Devontae Smith to pay off as that league winner. Again, sure, he could finish as the wide receiver 24, the wide receiver 25, but that is not going to win you your league. What wins you your league is drafting the wide receiver 25 and he becomes the wide receiver 8 or a top 12 wide receiver. Last season, he was the wide receiver 15 in points per game. 2022, he was the wide receiver 14. In 2023, wide receiver 20 in points per game. 2021, his rookie year, wide receiver number 36. So unless Thanos ends up snapping and A.J. Brown disappears off the face of the earth, I do not see a way where Devontae Smith pays off in a big way at his ADP. Highlighted on the screen right now are going to be 2 games without A.J. Brown that Devontae Smith played. He had, on the season, 3 10-plus target games. And 2 out of 3 of those games were without A.J. Brown. So if you're not going to get fed the ball, you're going to need to have those crazy big plays at a consistent basis in order for Devontae Smith to really be a smash at ADP. So in those 2 games, he had 10 targets in both. He was the wide receiver 14 in week 2 up against Atlanta, the wide receiver 25 in week 3 up against the Saints. Again, this isn't some hit piece on Devontae Smith. This isn't I think Devontae Smith sucks the metaphorical wazoo in terms of being a NFL wide receiver. He's a great NFL wide receiver, but for fantasy football, when you're on such a run-heavy team, when you are in a crowded offense, I just don't really see the path towards DeVonta Smith end up having that league-winning year. And again, if you're drafting a guy as the wide receiver 25, you are hoping that he's that top 12, top 14 guy, which I simply do not believe that DeVonta Smith is. Next up, we move to Brock Bowers, tight end of the Las Vegas Raiders. Sleeper ADP, tight end 1 at pick number 13. Now, in my opinion, it's the same thing about DeVonta Smith, right? We can talk positively about Brock Bowers just like we do with DeVonta Smith, but for me, the price is too damn high on Brock Bowers. Where Brock Bowers is going right now at pick number 13, the first pick inside the second round of 12-team leagues. Behind him, you can get a guy like Drizzy Drake London, who I believe could be a top 6 wide receiver in fantasy football. Devon Achane, who I have ranked inside the top 5 running backs on the season. A.J. Brown, who, while I do not like him, there are going to be people that like A.J. Brown more than Brock Bowers. I don't, but I do think that some people might. Then we got Ashton Genty, who could be the number 1 running back. Same thing goes with Christian McCaffrey. So when you are paying the piper, when you are paying this high price for a tight end, to me, it just does not make sense. Now, if you are in a 10-team league, if you are in an 8-team league, I am more likely to pull the trigger on Brock Bowers. That is because in an 8 or a 10-team league, even the worst player in your league probably is going to have a very stacked running back core, a very stacked wide receiver core, but you get that positional advantage at tight end with a guy like Brock Bowers. Again, I really do like Brock Bowers. There's a whole lot to like. This guy was amazing in college at Georgia, transitioning into the NFL. It went as smooth as it gets. Tight end 1 in PPR, tight end 3 in points per game. He was first in targets, first in receptions, first in receiving yards, 9th in total touchdowns. He had over 1,100 yards in his rookie year, over 100 receptions. In terms of efficiency, it is amazing. It is absolutely a sight to behold. 9th in yards per route run, 3rd in yards per team pass attempt, 3rd in dominator rating, 2nd in juke rate, 2nd in explosive rating, and 2nd in EPA. But when you are drafting him at that price, I simply cannot get behind it. We talked about Josh Allen in one of my player to avoid videos, and people were in the comment section be like, Nick, why do you not like Josh Allen? Josh Allen is so great. And I agree with that. It's the same thing with Brock Bowers. I am not comfortable at all drafting a quarterback in the 2nd round at all. It just feels gross to me. It feels wrong with all of the skill position players that I want to be loading up with early on in the draft. I feel the exact same way about Brock Bowers. It has nothing to do with his skill set. It has nothing to do with the Raiders offense, who I think is actually going to end up surprising a lot of people this season. It has everything to do with the fact that you are picking him around where you can get these league-winning running backs, these league-winning wide receivers. And if you don't draft Brock Bowers, you can just wait some leagues, potentially 2 rounds and get George Kittle, or at least you just wait another round and you can get George Kittle. So to me, Brock Bowers just seems like a very clear avoid this season based on where he's getting drafted. Now, if Brock Bowers falls into the late 2nd round, there's a lot more opportunity, in my opinion, for me to be like, hey, I actually kind of like him in that range. But as the first pick inside the 2nd round, there is no reason to be paying that price. Next up, we move to Xavier Worthy, Professor X himself, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs. Sleeper ADP, wide receiver 27 at pick number 59. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that really like Xavier Worthy, right? Because Xavier Worthy left a great taste in your mouth. If you remember in the Super Bowl, Xavier Worthy put belt to ass, right? Now, it was kind of in garbage time when he had that big play at the end of the game, but he had 8 targets, 8 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 157 yards. He scored 35.7 PPR points, right? Everyone remembers that game. But what they don't remember is Xavier Worthy really kind of struggling, in my opinion, in his rookie year. In terms of efficiency, he ranked 76th in yards per route run, 94th in yards per target, 88th in yards per reception, 98th in true catch rate. I'm talking about guys that have no hands that have higher catch rate, true catch rate than that, and 70th in explosive rating. Everyone talks about how, oh, look how quick Xavier Worthy is. He's like Tyreek Hill 2.0. Oh my God, I can't wait to suck off Xavier Worthy. That's what people are saying. But the guy ranked 70th in explosive rating. Last season, something that was incredibly damning is a tweet from Josh Norris. That's from May 20th, 2025. He said 70.2% of Xavier Worthy's targets last season traveled 9 yards or fewer down the field. So everyone's thinking that this guy's Tyreek 2.0. He's getting force-fed the ball deep down the field. They're just telling him to run, and Patrick Mahomes is closing his eyes, doing a 360 like he's got to hit a pinata, and he throws that thing. And it's a touchdown, right? That's what they're thinking. That is not what they are doing with Xavier Worthy. And in my opinion, Xavier Worthy is in a much worse spot this season because Rashee Rice is going to be healthy. Rashee Rice, according to Dr. Jesse Morris, he tore his LCL in week 4 of 2024, and he had surgery in October to the LCL plus hamstring tendon. Normally, this is a 4 to 6 month return timeline, so you think around March 2025. He has been rehabbing with Dr. Reef in South Florida, training alongside CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, and Deebo Samuel. He looks fantastic based upon the reports in camp. He was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL before his injury. In his only 3 completed games in 2024, he had 5+ catches, 75+ yards, and 17+ fantasy points in every single game. He had 29 targets in 3 games. Now, Dr. Jesse Morris, he's a doctor. I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, so I'm not going to argue with this. He thinks there's a chance that it could take a couple of games to ramp up. But even so, even if it takes a couple of games for them to, ramp up on the Rashee Rice, I still very much believe that with Rashee Rice healthy, you're not going to be seeing a lot of these games where Xavier Worthy is just getting force-fed the ball. You're not going to be seeing a lot of these games where there's all these designed plays for Xavier Worthy because they're going to be trying to get the ball to Mr. Rashee Rice. They also still have Travis Kelce. While a lot of people are quick to say Travis Kelce is washed, I actually think Travis Kelce could have a better season last year, and he was still one of the best tight ends in the NFL last season, so I think he could play better. If you look at the screen right now, the first 3 games this season, these are games played where Rashee Rice played the whole entire game. Week 4, he ended up getting banged out early because Patrick Mahomes ended up taking out his knee, which was honestly one of the most brutal ways for a guy to get hurt because it was his own teammate, right? It wasn't like, oh, it was a fluke. The other guy tripped and hit his helmet onto his knee. And then you're like, you know what? It is what it is. You could fall, you can go to sleep at night being like, you know what? That happens. But when your own quarterback comes in like a heat-seeking missile and takes out his number 1 wide receiver's knee, that really does hurt. So in those games, 3 targets for Mr. Xavier Worthy, 4 targets, wide receiver 11, 69, very nice, I like, shout out Borat, and wide receiver 76. Now I know there's going to be people, Nick, that's the first 3 games of his career. I get that, you can put that into the equation as well, but in my opinion, I really do believe Rashee Rice is here to stay as the number 1 wide receiver on this team. I believe that that's going to be the ultimate downfall of Xavier Worthy. And even without Rashee Rice for so long, Worthy was the wide receiver 45 in points per game last season, wide receiver 33. And we're drafting him as a top 60 pick. Don't you think that that is a little bit overzealous? Wide receiver 38 in targets, 40th in receptions, 48th in receiving yards, but he luck boxed into 9 total touchdowns, 9th at wide receiver, all while being uber inefficient. So I'm not falling for the Xavier Worthy trap. I'm not falling for the he's fast as fuck, he's on the Chiefs. I am going to just pass on him. I'm all in on Rashee Rice. I'm avoiding him. And the more and more positive news we hear about Rashee Rice, the more Xavier Worthy should fall, but it just doesn't seem like he is. So people still are really in on him. Next up, we move to Najee Harris, running back of the LA Chargers, super ADP running back 30 at pick 82. But before we talk about Najee Harris and the other 2 players in today's video, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. Underdog Fantasy has a great offer for you guys today. If you sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you will get a free pick, something like SGA, higher than half a total point, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I love doing my best ball drafts over on Underdog. Their main tournament is going to be Best Ball Mania. $15 million in total prizes, $2 million to first place. I think it's a great way to practice for your league, your home league, your fantasy football draft over on Underdog. The best part about Best Ball is it's the draft and that's it. There's no waivers, no trades, and no in-season management. Underdog automatically puts the highest scores into your lineup at the end of the week. So make sure you guys check out Underdog. Come draft with me. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description for your free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Back on into things here, Najee Harris. Now, in the offseason during the NFL draft, the LA Chargers, they bring in Najee Harris before the draft, but then guess what? During the draft, they select Omarion Hampton inside of the first round. Now, do I believe that Najee Harris is going to potentially be the lead back early on in the season? I think that that is a perfectly acceptable argument to be made. But what do you think is going to happen after 2 or 3 weeks of Najee Harris being the Najee Harris that we know he is? What's going to happen is they are going to take him and fucking yell Kobe and throw him directly onto the bench. Najee Harris cannot hold the jock strap of Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton is an incredibly talented running back coming out of UNC, and I believe he is going to take this job with ease. It is going to be like taking candy from a baby. Again, maybe he starts off the season with more touches. He has 2 solid games to start off the year. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he struggles, and Omarion Hampton takes the job right off the rip. To me, you're taking Najee Harris and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to get 2 or 3 solid weeks of production, and that is not what I'm looking to do at the running back position, especially since Najee Harris has been falling off ever since his rookie year. He came out the gate of his career like a bat out of hell, out of Alabama. It was like, wow, look how good Najee Harris is. He's the running back 6 in points per game. Hallelujah. And then after that, the running back 19, then 2023, the running back 30, 2024, the running back number 25. His efficiency numbers are not good. They are not good like an Anthony Fantano review. 47th in true yards per carry, 39th in yards per touch, 31st in yards created per touch. Now, I'll give him some credit. They were loading up the box. It was a loaded box like something you could pick up at Taco Bell. 5th in average defenders per box. In average defenders in the box is the actual stat. So, yeah, you know what? We'll give him some credit for that. But at the same time, like, do we really think that Najee Harris is going to be able to hold off Omarion Hampton for a while? A lot of sites already have Hampton ranked as the fucking starting running back on the team. Now, if we get to late August and we're hearing like, oh, Najee has a really strong grasp on this role, then maybe we should start to panic a little bit more on Omarion Hampton. But as of right now, there's really no reason to get hyped over Najee Harris. You know who he is. You know what you are getting with him. You are getting like the most boring fucking game ever. If he scores the touchdown, you're happy. If he doesn't score the touchdown, you're sitting there with 8 fantasy points, scratching your nuts on the couch, very disappointed. So in my opinion, Najee Harris is a no-go this season. Next up, we move to TJ Hawkinson, tight end of the Cold Lake, Minnesota Vikings, sleeper ADP tight end 4 at pick number 49. Now, for me, the same exact argument I made about Brock Bowers, I'm going to make here with TJ Hawkinson. Why are you drafting TJ Hawkinson as the tight end 4 at pick 49 when you can just wait and get similar projection, in my opinion, later? So, tight end 4 at pick 49. After that is Laporta, tight end 5 at pick 53. I don't love that ADP either. But Jonnu Smith, who, again, he might get traded, this, that, and the other thing. But if he's on the Dolphins as the tight end 6 at pick 70, I would be taking advantage of that all summer long. Like that Kid Rock song, right? And then after that, we got Kelsey, pick 71. Andrews, pick 79. Evan Ingram, pick 93. Njoku, pick 94.7. Light FM, right? So why would we pay the price on Njoku at pick 49 when I like Njoku pretty similarly as Hawkinson, and you can get him fucking 50 picks later? That's why I don't like Hawkinson. It has nothing to do with me thinking Hawkinson's bad. I have been a Hawkinson enjoyer when he was on the Lions. I'm a Hawkinson enjoyer when he's on the Vikings. I just think he is incredibly mispriced. Even at pick 61, right? You get Kelsey later, right? So to me, I think Hawkinson's a good player. Tight end 17 last year, coming off injury. He had ACL surgery in the offseason, so I do think he's going to get better, right? I do think it's pretty clear that, hey, when you're coming off the ACL, maybe you start off a little bit slow. Hawkinson has the talent. He scored no touchdowns last year, right? I'm not trying to sit here and paint the Mona Lisa picture of, hey, TJ Hawkinson reeks to high heaven. 30 yards per out run, 10th yards per reception, first in true catch rate, 10th fantasy points per out run. I don't think the quarterback situation really matters. It could be JJ McCarthy. They could go back to Sam Darnold, magically trade for him back. It could be Derek fucking Carr. Like, I genuinely believe that Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback whisperer. He does get the best play out of the quarterback position. So it has nothing to do with Hawkinson. It has nothing to do with the quarterback. It's just where he's getting drafted is so mispriced. Like, I get, like, oh, maybe you like Hawkinson maybe more than you like Kelsey or Jonnu Smith. That's fine, right? But that much of a gap in ADP, to me, there's just no reason to pay that when I can just keep loading up on my running backs and wide receivers in that range. Final guy is going to be Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers, sleeper ADP wide receiver 39 at pick number 84. Now, this is going to be a sentiment that we talk about a lot during the summer, and that sentiment is going to be very, very simple. In fantasy football, the injuries are going to find you, right? During the middle of the season, you're going to be sleeping at night, and the injuries are going to come up to you and put a pillow over your face like what Tony tried to do to his mom in The Sopranos, right? You are going to be walking down the street, you're going to go into a back alley, and then magically some guy rocking the Scream mask is going to ask you what your favorite horror movie is. What's your favorite scary movie, right? And then you're going to end up in a dumpster, right? You're going to be walking to the grocery store, and someone whips out a lock and a sock and takes out your ACL, right? The injuries are going to find you. So you don't want to be going into your draft just drafting the injured guys. Now, I get if you're on Underdog doing a best ball draft, promo code Notorious, if you draft Brandon Ayuk because you believe in the late season upside, right? Where you don't have to actually figure out when to start him because they automatically put the highest scores into your line. That's fine, right? Maybe Brandon Ayuk does explode towards the end of the season. But when you're drafting him at this price, some teams might need to play him early on, and you can't even do that because NBC Sports' Matt Moicano reports that 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan indicated that wide receiver Brandon Ayuk will start the season on the PUP, physically unable to participate. Ayuk is still rehabbing a torn ACL and MCL that he suffered in week 7 last season. He was not expected to be ready until midseason, so it is not a surprise that Shanahan indicated that the 27-year-old wideout will start the season on the PUP. So what that tells you is you're drafting a guy that's not going to be ready for the start of the season. Guess what? The start of the season matters. It does. You need those fantasy points, and you're chasing fantasy points on a guy that sucked donkey dick last season. It was if you had Brandon Ayuk, you literally were going to sleep every single night just dreading that he was in your lineup. You were going to sleep and you might be waking up in the middle of the night like there's I don't even know, like when you're a kid, when you're trying to go to sleep, right? You're like, oh my God, there's a monster under my bed, Mom. Can you come check? And then there's obviously nothing under your bed, but there was a monster under my bed, and his name was Brandon Ayuk. If you had him, you could not sleep. You were waking up, you were tossing and turning in the middle of the night. You were sweating bullets. Last season, look at the points on the screen. This is his fantasy finishes. Wide receiver 67, 40, 44, 61. And then, hallelujah, wide receiver 10. Holy shit, all the chakras have aligned. He's back, baby. He's back. And then you're like, oh my gosh, he got 12 targets. Oh my gosh, I'm so ready to start him. Wide receiver 10. And then the next week, he's the wide receiver 62. He scored 5 fantasy points. 5. That's terrible. That's dreadful. And he absolutely shit it up last season, and you're drafting him as the wide receiver 39. you are going to be the wide receiver because you're taking it up the ass if you draft this guy. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. In 7 games, he finished outside the top 100 overall. He was the wide receiver 60 in points per game. 47 targets, 23 receptions, 374 receiving yards. His efficiency stats are awful, atrocious. You look at it, you want to throw up. So let's draft him as the wide receiver 39, right? Fuck no, baby. Do not draft Brandon Ayuk. I feel so strongly about this. I'm literally doing a dance on his grave right now. Now, I want him to be healthy. I don't want him to get hurt. That's not what I mean. But I'm just saying, like, look, the guy's downfall was imminent last season. Oh, they don't have Debo. They don't have Debo. So now Ayuk's going to be the number 1 receiver. He couldn't be the number 1 wide receiver when Darius Slayton was out there. So, Brandon Ayuk, flush him down the toilet. Do not draft Brandon Ayuk. If you take anything from this video, right? Maybe you disagree with all the other takes. Hopefully, you can come with me kumbaya on fading Brandon Ayuk. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy and check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you long time. Have a great one. And as always, good boy.